very much so.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were three of us in this marriage.
Just when we thought the drama surrounding the royal family had reached its zenith, Prince Harry reveals a shocking revelation that causes the walls of the castle to shake. Finally, the son of the cherished Princess Diana is speaking out, and the information that he is disclosing about King Charles will cause your jaw to drop from the sheer magnitude of it. In addition to a tragic event, a strange message, and a web of secrets that have been lying in plain sight for decades, there is a web of secrets. Royal watchers, fasten your seatbelts. The monarchy is poised to lose its crown. This story is about to blow the crown off, the person who is hiding the secrets. Think about this. Today is November 14th, 1948. A little child who will one day become the heir to the throne of the United Kingdom is making his big debut into the world, and the hallways of Buckingham Palace are bustling with excitement. When Charles Philip Arthur George was born, he was given a silver spoon and the responsibility of carrying the weight of a country on his shoulders. However, you should not be fooled by the glamour. Tiaras and tea parties aren't the only things that come with being born into the most renowned family in the world. For Charles, on the other hand, it turned out to be a world that was full of terrible mysteries, secrets that his son, who is also Diana's son, will ultimately divulge after many years have passed. During his childhood, little Charles was raised in an environment where every action and decision was scrutinized and watched. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, and his father, Prince Philip, were not exactly the kind of people who were warm and fluffy. Young Charles was receiving instruction in royal protocol at the same time that other children were being read stories before bedtime. What a glorious childhood, don't you think? The walls of the palace may have been gilded, but they were also somewhat lonely for a young prince who was attempting to find his way around. When it comes to education, the royal family did not play about things. Charles was sent to Cheam School beginning when he was 8 years old. It was there that he learnt the 3 R's. Royal responsibility, reading and writing are all important, but the genuine character development took place at Gordonstoun, which is located in Scotland. Consider the possibility of exchanging your warm and inviting bed in the palace for a chilly shower and a long run across the Scottish Highlands. This wasn't your typical preparatory school at all. It was more akin to a form of military training. In a later statement, Charles referred to it as kilts and colditz. On the other hand, there are many who believe that this method of tough love was crucial in molding him into the man he eventually became. Now, however, things start to take an unexpected turn. The then prince made the decision to liven things up by entering the Royal Navy when he was 22 years old. From this point on, this was not merely a ceremonial position of some kind. The life of a sailor was something that Charles was experiencing while he was out there on HMS Minerva, learning the ropes in a physical sense. In addition to that, he was certified to fly helicopters. Not bad for a guy who was used to having slaves tie his shoelaces when he was growing up. During his time in the service, Charles revealed a new side of himself. He was the type of person who didn't mind getting his hands filthy. However, was he truly as honorable as he appeared to be? Your response can take you by surprise. The year 1976 was the year that Charles did something that caused people to genuinely pay attention and sit up. The prince's trust was established by him. This wasn't just another charity that had a royal seal of approval applied to it. In all honesty, Charles was truly enthusiastic about assisting young people who did not have the same opportunities as he did. In order to assist thousands of disadvantaged children and adolescents in getting their lives back on track, the trust became a true game changer. It appeared that our prince had discovered his true vocation, that is, when he wasn't preoccupied with his other interests and pursuits. You had to understand that Charles was not your normal royal. He was searching for ways to rescue historic structures and raving about modern architecture, while other aristocrats were hunting foxes. He was seeking strategies to safeguard historic buildings. To plants, he communicated. Indeed, in all seriousness, he advocated for organic farming long before it became fashionable, and he was not hesitant to say what he thought, even when it caused some very important people to feel uncomfortable. Because of his peculiar interests, the media seemed to have a field day, portraying him in a variety of ways, ranging from a visionary to a royal irregularity. However, it is possible that the criticism and the frigid showers were not the most difficult obstacles that young Charles had to overcome. It was the imperative to locate a suitable bride. The rumors became more audible when he hit his 30s and continued to be unattached. A royal romance was something that the public was eager to see, and the palace was looking for an heir to the heir. Charles dated his way through the ranks of British high society, including Lady Sarah Spencer, which is an ironic turn of events. However, how can you discover genuine love when you are the king of the future? It's a complicated point. One of the most significant scandals in the history of the royal family would result from this, as we are now aware. Diana's background. On July 1st, 1961, the Spencer family became parents to a baby girl who would forever alter the path that royal history would take. However, you should not let the start of the fairy tale fool you. Despite the fact that Diana's childhood was filled with aristocratic trappings, it was not an idyllic childhood. On the Queen Sandringham estate, she did, in fact, spend her childhood in Park House. However, those stately halls were filled with family strife that would leave permanent scars on the future princess of the people. Think about this. Diana was only 7 years old when she witnessed the disintegration of her parents' marriage right in front of her eyes. It was as if a bomb went off in her childhood when the terrible divorce that followed occurred. When it came to his emotional availability, her father, John Spencer, was about as accessible as a marble statue. He was more concerned with managing the family estate than he was with providing for his children. After then, he tied the knot with Rain, the Countess of Dartmouth, just for the sake of argument. Let's pretend that Diana and her siblings did not precisely throw a party for her. For their new stepmother, they gave her the nickname Acid Rain. And believe us when we say that it was not due to her upbeat personality. However, it is true that hardship has the ability to shape diamonds, isn't it? Diana's genuine kindness and sensitivity began to seep through, despite the turbulence that was occurring within the family. Initially at Riddlesworth Hall, and later at West Heath, where I attended school. As far as academic records go, she wasn't really breaking any. Nevertheless, despite the fact that she might not have been a perfect student, she was achieving a lot of success in terms of compassion. That this young girl would always be the first to soothe a crying student or to assist someone who was in need was something that the teachers couldn't help but notice immediately. The fact that they were witnessing the creation of the people's princess was completely unknown to them. As Diana entered her teenage years, she began to garner attention from members of London's distinguished social circle. But let me tell you something. Diana, on the other hand, was rolling up her sleeves and getting to work while other debutantes were preoccupied with an obsession over their next party costume. At the age of 19, she was working as a kindergarten teacher at the Young England School, while concurrently residing in a flat in London with her friends. Can you even fathom it? An aspiring princess who is responsible for changing nappies and wiping runny noses. Then again, that was Diana. The individual is grounded, genuine, and more concerned with making a difference than they are with making a grand entrance. Naturally, Diana had her fair share of suitors due to the fact that she was young and gorgeous when she was in aristocratic circles. She experienced the typical romantic relationships that occur during adolescence, but nothing particularly significant. The thing that she was truly searching for was something authentic in a world that frequently gave the impression of being anything but. It was almost as if Diana possessed a mystical capacity to connect with people and to make each individual feel like they were unique. It was as if she possessed a radiance within herself that piqued the interest of others, a light that would bring the attention of a particular prince at some point in the future. However, Diana was unaware that the beginning of her fairy tale was only around the corner. On the other hand, don't you think that every fairy tale has its gloomy chapters? Moreover, this one would be filled with more unexpected turns, twists, and shocking revelations than anyone could have possibly imagined. The romance of the regal. First, let's look at the events that led up to the astounding revelations made by King Charles. It is the year 1977, and Prince Charles, who is widely considered to be the most eligible bachelor in the world, is courting Lady Sarah Spencer. On the other hand, fate has a peculiar way of operating, doesn't it? It is not Sarah who is the one who attracts the attention of the prince. Diana, her younger sister, is the one in question. When Charles first meets Diana, she is only 16 years old and barely registers on his radar. During the time when the adults are conversing, she is simply his girlfriend's younger sister, and she is running around their ancestral home. On the other hand, everyone, hold on to your tiaras, for this tale is about to take a turn that nobody saw coming. In the summer of 1980, we are now in the future. No longer is Diana the awkward teenager she used to be. Charles is completely taken aback when he sees her at a country barbecue, since she has developed into a lovely 19th-year-old. All of a sudden, the prince who appeared to be tough to hold down appears to be smitten. Their courtship was reminiscent of a story that might be found in a romance novel. In any case, a really quick-paced romantic tale, following only 12 dates. Indeed, you did hear that correctly. 12. It is Charles who makes the proposal. Diana responds with a yes, her eyes widening and her heart soaring. But here is the question that everyone is talking about. Was it genuine love? Perhaps the prince, who was 32 years old at the time, was feeling the pressure to find a suitable spouse. Who is the general public? This romance straight out of a fairy tale, they couldn't get enough of it. Diana was flawless in every way, young, stunning, and aristocratic, but approachable for everyone. The press referred to her as the bashful D, and every single person on the planet fell in love with her because of her sincere smile and those stunning blue eyes that appeared to gaze straight through you. This match was a match made in heaven, and everyone was pulling for it. Was there already problems in paradise, despite the fact that those photo opportunities were picture perfect? After that, on July 29, 1981, the wedding took place. St. Paul's Cathedral was filled to capacity with an assortment of nobility from throughout the world. When Diana wore that outfit, however, all eyes were on her. What a lovely dress! An ivory silk taffeta gown, an antique lace gown with a train that seemed to go on forever, and a train that was 25 feet long. There were millions of people all over the world who were holding their breath as Diana walked down the aisle. This was the end, the sort of things that dreams are made of. There is a possibility that you will notice anything in Diana's eyes if you examine the video in great detail. Was it just nerves on the day of the wedding? Or had she previously had a premonition that this fairy tale would not have a bright and happy conclusion? Moments of genuine delight were experienced throughout the early years of their marriage, particularly when they welcomed their 2 kids into the world. William, the first prince, arrived in 1982, and Harry, the second prince, arrived in 1984. With a fervor that occasionally caused royals to raise their eyebrows, Diana dove herself into the role of parenting. She insisted on doing things the way she wanted them to be done, attending school with the boys herself, exposing them to life outside the walls of the palace, and attempting to provide them with a typical childhood. When you are in the queue for the throne, you should try to feel as normal as possible. However, despite the picture-perfect family photographs and royal engagements, cracks were beginning to appear in the relationship. Charles and Diana were on opposite sides of the spectrum. While she was all heart and emotion, he remained reserved, traditional, and somewhat distant. She was all heart and emotion. There was also that other woman, Camilla Parker Bowles, who was also present. It was just a friend of the family, Charles insisted. Whereas Diana, at first, she was unsure. The sixth sense, or the feeling that things weren't quite right, was something that she possessed. With the passage of time in the 1980s, what had once appeared to be a fairy tale began to take on the appearance of a gilded prison for Diana. But which ones are the most heinous? That was still to come in the future. Lastly, they would rock the monarchy to its fundamental foundations, which would be unprecedented. There are holes in the narrative. While the rest of the world basked in the brightness of the seemingly ideal royal nuptials, during the time that Charles was working late for some unknown reason, she would weep herself to sleep. Her attempts to deal with the stress of everything led to the development of eating problems, specifically bulimia, which she struggled with. What is the palace's reaction? It was a thunderous stillness. Maintain your composure and proceed, right? While everything was going on, Charles was leading a double life that would make a spy fiction blush. In front of others, he portrayed himself as a caring husband and parent. In private, however, it's not exactly the weather that Camilla was talking about when she received those late-night phone calls. A very different conclusion was being written for this fairy tale by the prince who had pledged to be true, and Diana was being cast in the role of the princess who was not necessary. As the decade of the 1980s progressed, what had begun as seemingly insignificant fractures began to develop into huge chasms. The fairy tale was falling apart, and the most shocking revelations had not yet revealed themselves. This terrible act of betrayal? It was the late 1980s when those rumors about Charles and Camilla began to persist. They were no longer only whispers on the air. Diana had reached the point when she could no longer pretend that she was unable to pay attention to the alarm bells. Now here is how the narrative unfolds. Diana is present for a birthday party for Camilla's sister in the year 1989 with Camilla. On the other hand, our princess is not present for the cake. She is on hand to provide answers. Diana meets Camilla with the bravery of a woman who has had enough of how things have been. Can you even fathom it? the princess of the people going up against the mistress of her husband. The truth was revealed by Diana, who stated that she is aware of everything that is going on between her and Charles. Camilla, who is attempting to appear naive, requests to know exactly what it is that you mean. And what was Diana's reaction? A blazing fire. I am aware of what is taking place. Be careful not to treat me like an idiot. However, the genuine bombshell had not yet been revealed. By publishing his book, Diana, in 1992, Andrew Morton gave the public a glimpse of what was going on behind the palace curtains. The truth behind her narrative. Not to be outdone, please. Diana was the true source of the information. Everything was blown out of proportion by the book. A secret affair, feelings of jealousy, and betrayal. The response from Charles? Not a single sound. However, you can bet that those walls of the palace were trembling. Then, in the year 1994, Charles made his hand visible to everyone. He admitted to having an affair in a television interview that caused jaws to drop all throughout the United Kingdom. However, it was only after his marriage had irretrievably suffered a breakdown. I beg you. But as if that made it okay. In response to the direct question of whether or not he had been devoted and honorable to Diana, his remark was a lesson in the art of royal understatement. Indeed, after both of us had attempted to retrieve it, it eventually got irretrievably shattered. To put it simply, there is one way to accept that you have been unfaithful to the woman who is the most cherished in Britain. What is the response from the general public? Like a bomb going off in the middle of British society, it was a momentous occasion. Team Diana became more powerful with each passing day, while Charles's popularity continued to plunge. The prince, who was expected to be the next monarch, had just admitted to betraying his bride. He was supposed to be the future of the monarchy, and with a woman who is already married, no less. There were even royalists who were adamantly opposed to the idea. Is that Diana? It was not in her nature to vanish into the darkness in silence. The line that would go down in history was uttered by her in her own renowned interview, which took place in the year 1995. In this marriage, there were 3 of us participating. Now, it was a little bit packed. That's it. By uttering those words, she not only earned the hearts of the general public once more, but she also made it abundantly plain who the true victim of this royal tragedy was. By the year 1996, the fairy tale had reached its conclusion. However, the harm to the monarchy was already done by the time Charles and Diana separated. It had become clear that the prince who would one day become king was more of a criminal than a nice individual, and the public would not forget this fact anytime soon. However, here is the actual game changer. There was still more to come, and nobody could have ever anticipated how horrifying this story would become. The worst was yet to come. It is over. August 31st, 1997. A date that would alter the trajectory of royal history in any way, shape, or form. On the other hand, let's go back in time a little bit. The gilded prison of royal life had finally been removed, and Diana was finally living her life according to her own terms. With Dodi Fayed, the son of millionaire Mohammed Al Fayed, she had discovered a romantic relationship. While they were enjoying the summer in the Mediterranean, the paparazzi were following their every move and having a field day. On the other hand, those flashbulbs that had captured Diana's fairy tale would shortly capture her dying moments. For Diana, that tragic night in Paris began in the same way as many others had before it. While she and Dodi were having dinner at the Ritz Hotel, she was attempting to avoid being followed by the paparazzi who were following her around at every turn. What is their plan? It was a mad race to Dodi's flat around midnight. A horror was about to unfold on the stage. A Mercedes-Benz was driven by Henry Paul, who was the deputy head of security at the Ritz. Dodi, Diana, and Trevor Rees-Jones, who was the bodyguard, were also present in the vehicle. After that, what transpired was reminiscent of a scene from a nightmare. At a fast rate of speed, the Mercedes entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel while being trailed by paparazzi people riding motorcycles. Suddenly, in a split second that would reverberate throughout the annals of history, the automobile collided with a pillar. The fallout was really devastating. Both Dodi and Henry Paul passed away a moment ago. However, Diana, our cherished princess, was still alive, albeit by a very slim margin. The entire world held its breath as emergency personnel rushed to the location of the incident. Diana was transported to the Pitié-Salpêtrière hospital, but despite the doctor's best efforts, the Princess of the People passed away at approximately 5 in the morning. The light that had been shining so brightly was extinguished, leaving behind a darkness that would swallow not only Britain but the entire world as well. Never before had such a reaction been seen. As the hours passed, a sea of flowers bloomed in abundance outside of Kensington Palace. In the streets, people were seen crying openly, two strangers who are grieving together and hugging each other. However, in the midst of the tears, questions started to come up. How could something like this take place? Where might she find her safety? And what was the reason for the Queen's continued presence in Scotland, where she kept a stiff upper lip while her people mourned? At long last, in response to the overwhelming demands of the people, the Queen addressed the country. During her conversation with her former daughter-in-law, Elizabeth said that she was a remarkable and talented individual. However, it was too little too late for many others. The initial quiet of the royal had conveyed a great deal of truth. 2.5 billion people around the world watched the funeral video of Diana. The sight of Diana's two kids, little William and Harry, marching behind their mother's coffin with their heads down and Charles by their side, will remain ingrained in our collective memory for all time. However, even as the entire globe cried their goodbyes, the rumors of a conspiracy became increasingly loud. What caused the security camera in the tunnel to malfunction in a peculiar manner that evening? What about the mysterious note that Diana left, which seemed to imply that she was concerned about her own safety? And what about those last remarks that she supposedly spoke to the people that responded to the emergency? What exactly did they mean? Even after all these years have passed, the questions have not been resolved. The growing number of those who feel that Diana's untimely death was the result of more than just a horrific accident has only served to strengthen their position. The circumstances surrounding Diana's death continue to be as controversial as they were on that fateful night in Paris. This is one thing that can be said with absolute certainty. The disclosures are going to be revealed, and as we are about to find out, her own son might just be the one who holds the key to unlocking some of the most deeply hidden mysteries. Just when we thought the controversy surrounding the royal family couldn't possibly get any more combustible, Prince Harry has just stepped into the spotlight with bombshells that make the scandals that have occurred in the past seem like they were nothing more than rumor. It's true that the son of Princess Diana has finally divulged some disturbing information regarding King Charles. After having walked behind his mother's coffin in the past, the little boy is now a man who is desperate to uncover the truth, and the revelations that he is making about his father are sending shockwaves throughout the establishment. There is a possibility that Charles is to blame for the passing of Lady Di. There was even a statement made by Harry that stated, "This is terrible. My father could actually be responsible for the loss of our mother." However, if you find this to be intriguing, let's just listen to it. It has been reported by individuals who are close to the palace that even his brother appears to be secretly sharing Harry's own ideas. It's possible that this is the reason why, over the course of the past few years, you've been able to observe how William and Charles' relationship is gradually becoming more strained. Let's move on to discussing that note now. You know, the one that Diana wrote in which she expressed concerns about her own safety. On the other hand, this was not a typical worry. Specifically, Diana expressed her worries about the possibility of being involved in an automobile accident. Who does she believe might be the person responsible for such a scheme? It was none other than Prince Charles himself, former spouse of the woman. Do you agree that it seems like something that might be found in a suspense novel? The only difference is that this was real life, and the stakes could not have been any greater. Given everything that has been going on, it is not surprising that brothers are experiencing feelings of anxiety. Harry has been open about challenging the results that were reached by the official investigation, which is a shocking turn of events. In spite of the fact that the authorities laid the accusation at a drunk driver and aggressive paparazzi, Harry is not buying it. However, this is where things start to become really interesting. Harry claims that even William had his reservations regarding the circumstance of the case. At this point, however, Harry is seeking explanations regarding the reason why the security camera in the tunnel was conveniently malfunctioning on that particular evening. Is it a coincidence? Neither Harry nor a great number of other people who have followed this tragic narrative appear to believe that this is the case. Take a moment to listen to this. At St. James's Palace, Lord Stevens and Charles had a brief conversation while Operation Paget was being conducted to investigate the circumstances surrounding Diana's murder. Consider the following scenario. The future king is confronted with the eerie remarks of his ex-wife regarding her own safety. According to the sources, Charles asserted that he was unaware of the memo until it became widely publicized in the year 2003. Here is the question that is worth £1 million. Did he tell the truth about the matter? The new admissions made by Harry give the impression that there may be more to the issue than his father has been letting on. Not to mention Tiggy Legbork, the royal nanny who was featured prominently in Diana's note. Let's not overlook her. It was Diana who had made the suggestion that Charles might be planning to make it easier for him to have a relationship with Tiggy. Do you find it improbable? Perhaps. It is important to keep in mind that this is the same man who continued his relationship with Camilla throughout his marriage. When it comes to the royal family, the truth is frequently more bizarre than fiction, as Harry's discoveries have brought to our attention. What is the effect of Harry's public statement? The House of Windsor is the equivalent of being struck by an earthquake. In an effort to patch up the holes that these revelations have created, the palace's public relations machine is operating at full capacity. But there is no turning back now. The populace is now again expressing their curiosity and looking at King Charles with a renewed sense of mistrust. When all is said and done, what are we expected to think if his own son is displaying signs of uncertainty? Ultimately, it would appear that the specter of Diana and the mysteries that surround the tragic circumstances surrounding her death will not be put to rest anytime soon. Although the Princess of the People has passed away, her son is working hard to ensure that she is not forgotten. However, what about King Charles? Having secrets to keep can sometimes make it feel like the crown is resting heavily on one's head. What are your thoughts on this matter then? Leave a comment below and let us know.